What's up, tennis fans? Sleepy Picks here. We had two new draws released today. We're going to be going over the Tiriac Open in Bucharest. Here is our draw reaction and picks. Let's take a look at the draw. Here's a look at Diallo's half of the draw, and as we always do, we will skip the qualifier, and Arnaldi will go over that once the qualifiers are announced. Let's take a look at Boitan against Moller. Boitan is ranked 307 in the world, and Moller's floating around 122 in the world. Obviously, Moller's had some bigger matches. We remember him from the Chile Open where he was able to beat Burchaga, a pretty solid clay quarter in 3 sets. Then he went on to lose to Cerundolo 6-2, 6-2. The one thing that concerns me a little bit with Moller here is his clay court record is 1-4, so not the best. However, in 2025 he did have a 31-17 clay court record, and in 2024 he had a 52-21 clay court record. In 2023, a 31-8 clay court record. So he does have a little bit of familiarity on this surface. Boitan is almost solely a clay quarter. He's played no matches outside of the clay this year. He's 8-5 on the clay, mostly going through challengers here. Not a lot of names that I recognize here that he's played in the challengers. Obviously, being ranked outside the top 300, it's a little bit harder for you to get into some of these bigger tournaments here. So this is a big opportunity for him to show out. No head-to-head here for these guys, and honestly, I like Moller to get through this, but something tells me it's going to be a little bit tricky for him. Obviously, holding a 1-4 clay court record, he hasn't really been playing the best on the clay. He's lost in the first round of back-to-back challengers. So I think this might be a little bit of a tricky match. You got a guy who's pretty comfortable on the surface coming in here. I'm going to go with Moller to win in 3 sets here over Boitan. And before we get into our next match, I just want to make a quick note that we have to turn our hard court picking off and our clay court picking on. You know, it is a little bit different. We're looking for kind of a little bit of a different type of player. Obviously, you know, when you get to the top, Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, also great clay quarters, as well as hard court players. But when you're kind of mixing around here at the 250 level, I think you don't want to get confused with players that have had success on hard courts might not be as successful on the clay courts. So just keep that in mind as we move forward here. Next matchup is O'Connell taking on Navone, and Navone being able to turn around his year wasn't really looking good, and then was able to win the Cap Canada Challenger. That's on an outdoor hard court. He won 5 matches there, beating Bellucci in the finals to kind of boost his record a little bit. He was 1-5 on the outdoor hard courts before that, so not really doing that great. Kind of gets a little bit of a jump start here, and then is able to go into Miami, beat Basilashvili in the first round in straights, and then lose in straights to Vacheron. So not a bad showing for Navone. He's at 8-8 on the year, 2-3 on the clay. He did have a run to the second round of the Chile Open where he lost to Darderi in 3 sets. And Christopher O'Connell, on the other hand, has not played a clay court match. So we always want to look out for those where, you know, if this is their first time playing on the surface, obviously, yes, they've played on the surface before in past years, but if this is their first time playing on it this year, we want to look out to see if there's like a little bit of rust, you know, trying to figure out how to play again on a surface like this, how to move on a surface like this. That's always really important stuff. O'Connell coming off a first-round loss to Fucsovics in the first round of Miami Open, 7-6, 6-3. He did get through qualifying there, though, beating Mejia and Blocks. Blocks we know as a very solid challenger-level player. And interestingly enough, O'Connell actually lost to Fucsovics in the first round of Indian Wells as well. So no head-to-head here for these guys. But for me, I got to go with Navone. I kind of like the momentum that he has. He's a pretty decent clay quarter, 30-16 last year, 27-14 the year before, where we have O'Connell 3-7 last year, 2-4 the year before. So not the best for O'Connell on the clay. I think Navone's going to win this. I'll pick Navone in 2 tough sets. Next match, we have Dzumhur playing Jianu, and this is also a very tough pick here for me. We have Dzumhur coming in. He's ranked 76 in the world, Jianu is 243 in the world. Dzumhur coming off a straight set loss to Yannick Sinner, 6-3, 6-3, after beating Baez, the young upstart Peruvian player, in 3 tough sets in the first round. Dzumhur is sitting at 1-2 on the clay courts currently. Jianu is coming off a first round loss to Pellegrino in the Naples Challenger, and he sits at 18-5 on the clay. So that's pretty solid from him. Obviously, he's been playing a lot on the clay, and it looks like once he kind of hits that mid-tier player like Arthur Gia, he loses 2 in straight sets. Pellegrino, he loses 2 in straight sets. He does tend to flounder a little bit. However, their head-to-head is 3-0 here for Dzumhur. Their first matchup was in 2022 in the Banja Luka Challenger. Dzumhur is able to win 5-7, 6-1, 7-5 in the second round. That was on clay. They then met in 2023 on the clay in the Zadar Challenger. Dzumhur is able to win 6-1, 7-6. And last year, they met in Bucharest, where Dzumhur was able to win in the second round 6-4, 3-6, 6-3. So, from what I'm seeing, it looks to me like Jianu's been able to push Dzumhur here to the limit. And I haven't been too impressed with what we've seen from Dzumhur at all. Even that Baez match, he's able to get through that match, but a lot of that was just Baez kind of running out of energy. Looking at Jianu, Jianu's sitting at 18-5 on the clay. He's only played on the dirt. He hasn't played a match on the hard courts, where Dzumhur's only got 3 matches on the clay and 9 matches on the hard courts. He's coming off a Miami, Copacabana, Indian Wells, so Acapulco. Hasn't played on the clay since the 19th of February in Rio. I kind of like Jianu here. I kind of want to take him in the revenge. I'm going to do it. Give me Jianu to take out Dzumhur in a big upset here. I'm going to say he's going to win in 3 sets. Next match, we have Alexander Shevchenko taking on Radu David Turcanu. Shevchenko is ranked 84 in the world, while Turcanu is 658. So this is a little bit of a mismatch here. These guys haven't played. Turcanu is 20 years old, so a little bit young here. He turned pro in 2022. And this year he's been playing mostly M15s and M25s. But he does prefer the clay court as a surface. 7-3 this year on the clay. 37-14 last year on the clay. The majority of his matches have been played on the clay, so he has that familiarity. Shevchenko, on the other hand, has not played a match this year on the clay. Last year he was 19-16 on the clay. In 2024 he was 6-12 on the clay. Shevchenko coming off a great Miami run to the third round, beating Arnaldi and Ben Shelton in 3 sets, and losing to Humbert in straights. Very tough 2 sets. I think Shevchenko's got a little bit of confidence, especially moving from this Miami Open. I do kind of have a weird feeling that, I'm always iffy about these challengers who've kind of been floating around on the clay court challenger circuits, or even the M15, M25 circuits with the clay, and then being able to step up here. This is a big opportunity for them. Some of them can show up and go toe-to-toe with some of these guys. We talk about the depth of the ATP Tour. Does it reach all the way out to the 700th guy? Probably not. But I think there is pause for us, when you're looking at potentially picking one or the other. I think Turcanu can give Shevchenko some issues. But overall, I think Shevchenko's going to be able to get through. He's a much higher level player. So give me Shevchenko here in straight sets. And our final matchup is Maestrelli taking on Botic van de Zandchulp. And neither guy has played on the clay this year. However, last year Maestrelli was 28-18 on the clay. Van de Zandchulp was 11-10 on the clay. Maestrelli is on a 3-match losing streak, losing to Hijikata in the first round of Indian Wells. Not too bad for a player of his caliber. He was able to get out and qualify for the tournament. He then lost to Bellucci in the Capcana Challenger, which honestly doesn't look that bad. Bellucci able to make the finals of that tournament, but it was 6-1, 6-1, so that's really not a great score. And then he loses in the first round of Miami to Murphy Casson. One thing that I'm really interested in, Maestrelli, a pretty solid clay quarter. It looks like he's played the majority of his matches have been on the clay. He's got familiarity on that surface. Why hasn't he played on the clay yet? We're almost into April. He hasn't played a match on the clay. And my assumption is I think he really wanted to focus on trying to maybe make a little bit of a push at these Indian Wells and Miami tournaments. Now, losing qualifier first round and losing the first round of Indian Wells, not a great result. I think he wanted to do a little bit more there, especially after his Australian Open debut, where he was able to make it out to the second round. He got through qualifying, beat Terrence Ottman in 5 sets in the first round, and then got through qualifying, losing to Djokovic in the second round. So obviously, I think there was maybe a change of pace there for him to say, like, hey, I kind of want to see if we can maybe get a run here on the hard courts. Not able to do that, so might be a little bit disappointed coming off this run here. But he's now back on a surface that he plays better on. Van de Zandschulp in the last couple of years, 2025 he was 11-10, 2024 he was 16-12. He's coming off a tough 3-set loss to Taylor Fritz, 6-3, 6-7, 6-3, and Zandschulp being able to beat Chapo in the first round of Miami, 7-5, 6-3. Also has lost 4 of his last 5 matches. This is a tough pick for me because I think this match is going to be very close. I think it's going to be a 3-setter no matter what. Neither guy's played on the surface yet. So I think that's going to be really interesting. You have a guy like Maestrelli who's pretty comfortable on there, 123 and 96 overall on the clay. And then you have Van de Zandschulp who's played 3 more years and is 171 and 104 on the clay. But he's played a little bit at a higher level. I'm going to go with Van de Zandschulp just because I remember watching Nicolas Jarry against Maestrelli at Indian Wells and qualifiers, and that just scarred me because Maestrelli had a ton of opportunities. He ended up winning, but he did everything he possibly could to lose that match. I think he was down 6-1 in that breaker, and he's able to come back and win 9-7. So when you have a guy like that and they're giving a guy like Zandschulp opportunities to win the match, guys like Zandschulp are going to take advantage of that. So I got to go with Zandschulp. I think it's going to be a 3-setter. So give me Botic Van de Zandschulp in 3 sets. And here's a look at Diallo's half of the draw. Would be kind of interesting to see if he's able to find some success on the clay. Obviously, playing Arnaldi or qualifier in the second round, I think, is going to be a pretty tall task for Diallo. He doesn't have much comfort here on the clay. And then looking through this, I kind of have a feeling I want to see how Shevchenko plays. I think he's got a lot of confidence from Miami that he's going to be able to pull that and bring that through here. Maybe get out to a semifinal against, I think Navone is going to get out there. But we'll have to see when it comes. Let's take a look at the next part of the draw. Here's a look at Mannarino's half of the draw. First matchup we're going to look at is Altmaier taking on Martinez. And one thing I want to note about Altmaier is he's currently playing in the Naples Challenger in Italy. He just won his semifinal match in 3 sets over Bondioli, 6-2, 2-6, 6-1, and now he plays the final tomorrow. So going to have to do a little bit of traveling here to get to Bucharest. Not too bad, but he might be a little bit tired, especially if that final goes long. You're not going to have many days of rest. I don't know if he's slated for the Monday or Tuesday. I assume since he's coming off a challenger, they're going to give him a potential Tuesday slot. But still, that's only one day to travel and potentially practice and then get back out on the court and compete again. And he's going against a guy that has a winning head-to-head again over him. Martinez is 2-0 over Altmaier. They met first in 2021 in Kitzbühel, where Martinez was able to win 4-6, 6-3, 6-3 in the semifinals. Then they played in Estoril, and Martinez was able to win that 6-4, 6-2 in the first round. I have a weird feeling that this is going to be a Martinez spot here, even though we have Altmaier as the seed. Looking at their clay court records, we have Altmaier, who is 4-2 right now on the clay, and Martinez, who is 4-4 on the clay. Martinez just playing a clay court challenger, losing to Carreno Busta yesterday in the quarterfinals. And it's important to note, too, that Martinez did not go over to the hard court swing. He's been playing mostly on the clay, playing at the Chile Open, playing at the Rio Open, and then playing in Buenos Aires. So his feet. He's used to this clay. I think that's extremely important when you look at this matchup. Plus, you're going to get a tired Altmaier. I don't see these things going right. I think Altmaier's got to be at his best if he's going to beat a guy that has never dropped a match to him. So I'm going to go Martinez. I think it's going to be a 3-setter. Give me Martinez in 3 sets. Our next match is Baez taking on Gaubas, and Gaubas not a great higher level player. He's 3-1 on the hard courts, 7-5 on the clay. He does do well on the clay, and I think most of that is so Gaubas has kind of funky strokes, and I think the clay allows him time to kind of take some. He's got some bigger swings on the stroke, so the clay allows him to have some time to hit those bigger strokes. And you look at his records over the last couple of years: 36-19 in 2025, 40-28 in 2024, 55-21 in 2023. So he's played a lot of clay court matches. He's very familiar with the surface. Sebastian Baez, on the other hand, coming off a first-round loss to Adam Walton, and obviously we had Baez picked there to beat Walton. I thought he was going to be to rediscover some of that magic that he had in the Australian swing, where he was able to beat the likes of, I think he beat like Hurkacz and Taylor Fritz, but not to be here. Baez sitting at 4-3 on the clay courts. Last year he was 17-14. The year before he was 26-11. So not too bad on the clay, but I do find it really interesting. You know, we look at Sebi Baez, and we kind of think like, oh, this guy's just a pure clay courter. He likes to stay up on the baseline. He likes to rally. He likes to grind. But not really having the successful results that you would expect from a guy like Baez. I think he should be having some better results. This match, I think, is going to be a little bit tricky. These guys haven't played. But Gaubas, obviously, this is one of his chances in one of those 250s where he's been able to play up. And you look at the last opportunity he had at the Chile Open, and he gets through qualifying as a lucky loser. He beats Soto, a Chilean player, 6-2, 6-3. Then he beats Dino Prismic. And we remember Dino Prismic. Dino Prismic playing pretty good tennis. Gaubas able to beat him in 3 sets. And then he goes 3 sets with Hanfman in the quarterfinals of the Chile Open. So he's able to make it out to the quarterfinals. You know, I think this is a tough draw for Baez. I'm gonna pick Baez to win this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Gaubas won. I think this is gonna be Baez in 3. I don't think this is gonna be an easy match. We got Baez who was able to get a win against Lehechka on the hard courts. Obviously now we're on the clay. And Baez also played the Chile Open, beating Christian Garin in 3 sets. Tabilo in the quarterfinals. Now we remember Tabilo having that crazy Rio Open win, and just following it up the week later, just didn't have the energy to beat Baez. And then losing to Darderi in straight sets. I'm going to pick Baez to win this. I think he's going to win in 3 sets, but it just wouldn't surprise me if Gaubas is able to pull the upset, so definitely look out for that. But give me Baez in 3. Next match, we have Bautista Agut taking on Droguet, and big age discrepancy here. We have Bautista Agut sitting at 37 years old and Droguet at 24 years old. And the reason why I bring that up is I really feel like the clay might challenge the movement of Bautista Agut right now. Obviously, he's had some successful years on the clay. Not really too much over 500 for him. He was 6-8 last year on the clay. Now, important to note, neither of these guys has played a match on the clay, so this will be their first time feeling out that surface, getting their feet on the dirt. Bautista Agut coming off a straight set loss in Miami to Kachanov in the second round, 6-3, 6-3, after beating James Duckworth in the first round in straight sets. He did make it out to the second round of the Indian Wells, where he lost in 3 sets to Jack Draper, but he was able to beat Marijan, who we thought was playing well, but has now kind of stumbled a little bit over the last month and a half. And Bautista Agut able to beat him in 3 sets. Drogo, on the other hand, able to make it to the quarterfinals of the Sam Brio Challenger, where he was able to beat Kwame. Remember, Kwame got the wild card into Miami, had a nice win there. And then Poulain of France, and then Hughes Herbert, he lost to in 3 sets. Drogo was 22-9 on the clay last year, 18-8 on the clay the year before. I like Drogo here. I think this is going to be a tough match for both. This is such an interesting match for a first round of a 250. This is a very tough matchup for both these guys. But I'm going to take Drogo. I think he's going to win in 3 sets. And here's a look at Mannarino's half of the draw with my round of 16 picks for now. Obviously, we will have a few more with the qualifiers completed. I'm interested to see how Marijan does on the clay. That's kind of one of the big things. I felt like he started the year so well with so much confidence, and then just has kind of stumbled a little bit down the stretch here. So I'll be interested to see if he can get it back on the clay, get some more success there. I would also like to see how Baez is able to do getting out here. Again, another guy who started the year very well with some high-quality wins and just hasn't been able to relive that success yet. Even though, Baez with that win over Lehechka at Indian Wells, that's a very solid win. But we know Lehechka's kind of got sometimes those matches where he might throw in, a dud of a match. And Baez with a perfect game to bother a guy like Lehechka. I don't see Mannarino going too far here. I'm not sure, depending on which qualifier they put out in this spot here, I'm not sure if they can take Mannarino out, but I don't see him going past the quarterfinals. That would really surprise me on the clay. Let me know what you guys think. Would love to hear your comments. Share your picks in the comments. Thanks again for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share your picks in the comments. Share the video. We have another video out for the Houston Open that I sent out yesterday. We have a video out for the final tomorrow of the Miami Open, Lehechka playing Sinner, and we will have a video out for the Marrakesh Open. I will have that published within the hour as well. Lots of clay court tennis coming up, guys. Getting so excited for leading into the French Open. So excited to start the clay season. I'll see you guys in the next video.